Well, I had to do a more direct reply, I felt. So that's exactly what this is.
Hey, what's up, guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. I know everybody is absolutely sick of hearing about Caitlyn Bruce Jenner, but I needed to get this off my chest, so here I am making a video about it. Now, first off, everyone's talking about how the Illuminati shows their plans, and back in 2008, an episode of Family Guy where
How the Illuminati shows their plans. Okay, so right off the top, you have to already accept that there is an Illuminati organization, and you also have to accept that that organization is using mainstream media to perpetuate certain ideologies. Okay? Now, it's really easy to concede to the idea that yes, there's commissions of individuals that are not in the public light, ministers and their secretaries, etc., that deal with very specific branches of government. It is quite a large pyramid, if you want to put things that way. But as far as having some kind of control over mainstream media, the thing is, there's oversight from institutions such as the Broadcasting Association. There's also a couple of different ratings boards. Networks may also have their own kind of set of rules. You name it. In terms of guiding content, I guess, as they want to call it, where they kind of pick and choose what content is good or not good. Family Guy, like South Park and like other shows in the same kind of vein, that deal a lot with characters, sometimes less concrete characters, such as like Kenny in South Park. He's eliminated all the time, and that's something that's been remarked upon. Family Guy, Brian has died and come back to life and all these other things. It's cartoon. There doesn't need to be continuity, but there does need to be characters for it to be kind of something that an audience can return to. So understandable. The thing is, though, when you're dealing with irreverent comedy, anything can come up on the chopping block. Anything and everything is up on the chopping block. Now, if there was an Illuminati organization looking over Fox or NBC or Viacom or whatever companies you want to think are pulling strings here, social commentary is going to happen. It doesn't matter who's pulling the strings. Social commentary on these kinds of things is going to happen. That is the point. If anything, aside from the personal motivations for Bruce to transition to Caitlyn, aside from those personal reasons, everything else is on the public chopping block on purpose. The whole point is that this is in the spotlight. That's it, And for a lot of people, I guess, this whole Bruce Jenner transition, this whole Caitlyn transition, is going to be pretty difficult for people to digest. It's going to be, they're going to question their ideas about what it means to be a man or a woman and all these other binary things, because that is simply the process that these things go through. It's the same thing with like the dissemination of vehicles, air travel. A select few will have it, but then it trickles down, kind of a thing. And it's not just, things like being able to undergo body augmenting surgeries so that you can become a different gender or even a different species are completely within the frame of reference of what we can do, as a species, medically or physically. And putting these things in the public spotlight is going to spark nothing but conjecture. That's the point out of all of it, because by the time the public knows, then it's already incepted. They're just becoming aware. It's like finding out that they've been infested with, I don't know, maybe infestation is not the right word. It's like waking up and finding out everything in your pantry has turned into marshmallows. You know, at some point in the last 24 hours, you're going to be thinking back, like, how could this have happened? And it's like, well, this is just how things are now. And this is how it's always been. You used to have marshmallows in here before, and now it's like that's how it feels for some of these people. That's why they question it, because it's like, oh my goodness, like everything is this now, and it's like, no, that's not how it is. It's just about there are certain individuals who, for their entire lives, feel as though their pantry is marshmallows. Okay, it's not about that transition of simply waking up one morning and finally, everyone is realizing, oh my goodness, there's pantries full of marshmallows. No, it's individuals and individual idealization. Okay, it's an assertion and affirmation of the self. Transitioning can take a lifetime, and the toll it can take on an individual can take a lifetime to deal with. So the whole point is, I would hope, to lessen the suffering of others, especially those who suffer from dysmorphia of some kind. I mean, there are surgical permanent solutions for a lot of things that people do, either to themselves on purpose or not at all. Being fat or skinny, you can fix that surgically. You got a crooked nose, you can fix that surgically. And just because you were born with a penis doesn't mean that you need to live the rest of your life with one. These ideas, though, they shouldn't be breaking people's minds. They shouldn't, be inspiring hatred or outcry or harking on the Illuminati. Because that is, I mean, I'm not even 24 seconds into this, and I'm already ranting this hard about it, because you simply cannot assert that the Illuminati is a thing, and that's why this is being spoken of. So that right there is whatever. Despite everything else, whatever. Let's just continue.
Stewie and Brian are talking. They discuss how Bruce Jenner is a woman. About 7 years before, Bruce Jenner actually made the transformation and made this whole thing public.
Okay, but the thing is, I kind of was leaning towards this in my original response to this. If you have basically a lifetime, like decades and decades worth of surgical history, it for me, it kind of feels like that's the end result, though. If at the beginning of a life of plastic surgery you begin as a man, at the end of it, you're most probably going to end up somewhere between being a man and a woman or something else. And even then, the public doesn't need to accept that. Okay? Like, it's not about the public, it's about the self. It's not a selfish act. It's expression. It's affirmation. This individual that made this video has affirmed themselves as the paranoid, delusional fool that they are professing to. Okay, I can only assume that this individual is talking to itself as an audience, and that is the audience that it has received. So, GG for this individual. I don't know exactly what that means for Caitlyn Jenner's audience, having broken records and stuff for internet followers and things like that, but that's irrelevant. Back to the video. Sorry.
Now, I wanted to bring this up in light of what Snoop Dogg said, and he's trending right now as I, make this video. Snoop Dogg shares meme calling Caitlyn Jenner a science project.
Which is kind of true. It's kind of true, because it's a process of experimentation. I mean, you can take what he's saying out of context, the way that I'm sure everyone is going to, but that's unfortunately the trickle-down of being at, the top of the media pyramid. Does this individual believe that Snoop Dogg is part of the Illuminati? He's successful enough. He's got enough gold chains. He's on top of things. He knows a lot of people. So what is it? Like, is he part of the Illuminati? Is this part of the Illuminati's plan? Is everything part of the Illuminati's plan? Like, that's the issue with bringing up that kind of stuff, because now I can just take issue with everything this person says and counterpoint it with their inability to express it beyond the expression of some kind of otherly organization. I mean, Snoop Dogg is one person. He's got his own Twitter account. He's got his all, like everyone else does. It's a form of expression, while at the same time, it's just processing the information, just like everybody else. And because it's big news, because it's big talk, because everyone's got something to say about it, everyone is going to jump at everybody else for saying something. It's like this disgusting wolf pack mentality. I mean, now because of this, people are calling for Snoop Dogg's career to be killed.
And it says here, Snoop Dogg joined the ranks of public figures who've shared less than sensitive reaction to Caitlyn Jenner's transition on social media, sharing a meme Wednesday that compares the coverage of Jenner's Vanity Fair cover with the coverage of Akon's charitable initiative. And basically the tweet by Snoop Dogg said, shout out to Akon. He's about to supply 600 million Africans with solar power. I'm really upset that this isn't major news, but that science project Bruce Jenner is. Hashtag society.
And to a point, Snoop Dogg is saying the funds that could have been allocated from those surgeries or from Bruce Jenner's transition could have been used on different things. Now, I don't think that's a really good comparison. I mean, I can understand the outrage because, you know, being a public figure and seeing other public figures, like people you end up meeting and knowing and stuff, getting lambasted all the time, the media just becomes this hate-mongering thing made out of, you know, toilet paper that's on the newsstands full of advertising. It's literally manufactured garbage. And this isn't big news because why would it be? I mean, are you going to have big-name newspapers interview him? I mean, is he doing this for the betterment of others or the betterment of himself? Like, that's... And even then, does that matter? If there's anything in what this individual is doing in Africa to give people power, has anything to do with transhumanism or the Illuminati or Caitlyn Jenner, I have no idea. It's completely irrelevant. And talking about Snoop Dogg talking about this comment is irrelevant.
Now, a lot of people are not so quick to jump on that, you know, acceptance, tolerance bandwagon with this Caitlyn Jenner thing. It's been really interesting to watch. And
so, Bruce coming out as Caitlyn Jenner in this grand unveiling, the grand unveiling is now a thing. Just solidifying that. The Caitlyn Jenner thing is probably how. That's not good. That's not good connotation. It's an individual people are talking about. It's kind of weird.
this goes beyond sort of the basic acceptance of a person, of an individual. Now, I want to say right now that Jesus loves Bruce Jenner, okay? Jesus
I just wanted to pause that.
wants nothing more but for Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner, probably Bruce, to repent and turn to God.
That's pretty presumptuous and assumptive and spiritually oppressive, sort of, because it's like, this is what you got to do now, but it's like, this is what you got to do to appease my God now. And it's like, are we living in the 1400s? You know? Give us 2 bags of grain now to appease our gods now. Or we're going to, like, remove you from your home and torch it. Like, really, we're not in the 1400s. Like, and luckily, because nothing's going to happen if people don't repent to these fools that beg them to or ask them to.
Okay, that's what God wants for him. But in light of what we are seeing here, I feel like he's really a victim, okay, of some serious occultism or some serious mind control.
Yes, the occultism is called culture, and culture is perpetuated by a thing called a society, and a society is a thing that embodies a collective. And there's nothing creepy or crazy occult about that aside from, you know, Hollywood is a thresher machine of individuals. I mean, in a way, the world is, kind of, because if you're a blue-collar worker and you work your whole life in deplorable working conditions and, you know, you end up suffering before your time, so to speak, because of how hard you've worked in those conditions, are you not then a victim of the system with which you have helped perpetuate? The answer is yes, in a way. Now, is his transition and all of this public stuff an outcry because he has become a victim of the climate of his profession, so to speak? I can't really say that to be true. I really can't, because then you'd have anyone who has worked in Hollywood for, 15 years minimum, after 15 years, everyone gets a sex change. You know, like there'd be a precedent. This isn't necessarily a precedent. I mean, over time, I'm sure we're going to be finding that people are really going to be trying to mess up like the barriers in sports and stuff. Like people want to take, certain people feel as though the Olympic Association should take away the medals that Caitlin earned as Bruce. I think that'd be stepping over the line, especially if those medals were due wins at that time. There is no time machine, so let's not pretend that things that you do in sports can be taken back retroactively because of choices that you make decades after the fact. It's completely preposterous. And I can't really concede whether or not he's a victim of something. I mean, obviously, there's some self-image, not necessarily self-image issues. I would say that there's some attentiveness to self-image. There's been a great deal of choices obviously made. I mean, if you look at the bridge of his nose and the cut of his cheek and his earlobes and everything else. I mean, if you look up Bruce Jenner on Google Images and you type in operation or opt or something like that, you're going to find quite a few images of scars and things that people have found. And it's really disconcerting, and it's pretty intrusive. I mean, as much as all of this is in the public light, a lot of it cannot be deliberate, and that's the stuff that feels exploitive, and that's the stuff that feels alienating. So I guess it's nice that this is all being done on purpose. I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, now let me read for you a couple of quotes from transhumanists who I cited in one of my early blog posts from last year, January of 2000.
Yeah, and this is irrelevant. These are the two quotes that I had up on my video for the longest time. They're awful. They're awful. I mean, it's wonderful, whimsical, science fiction-like ideas. I strongly believe that at some point we're going to have some kind of biointerface that's going to be able to stimulate us instead of having to do some kind of physical response. It'll be a bioelectrical one. That only means that we've advanced our ability to interface with our, I guess you could say, natural technology. The things that create our universe, the stuff that we feel, intuitively, I guess you could say, the intuition of the universe is something that spirituality has helped express, which is something that has kind of mirrored itself in, faith-based practices and rituals and things like that. It's this assertion of an interconnectedness, and I believe that, science is only helping us to completely understand something that we only partially understood before, at least something that we partially intuitively understood. Science, I believe, helps us to better comprehend those subjects totally instead of just experientially. Now, this person was someone that apparently Face Like the Sun did an interview with. Sounds like a very, very kind of out there, science fiction-y kind of an individual. I don't have anything wrong with anything that this person has to say right here. It's very, I guess, science fiction-y. I mean, talking about membranes and android sex and things like that, and crescendos of interactions, etc., which is pretty pointed. But then we get back into the, the soul must repent kind of stuff. So,
quote. Now again, I apologize for the graphic nature of these quotes, but this shows you where their mind is at, okay? It's quite disturbing. And if you think of...
Okay, but the thing is, like, this individual, the Face Like the Sun person that made this video, is expounding upon two different people having two different ideas on relatively the same subject. That subject is a disconnect from the discussion of Bruce Jenner and the transsexual transition that is actually part of the topic. It's completely separate. You want to talk about science fiction, transhumanist, post-human stuff, do that. It's a completely different topic. If you want to talk about that as like it's some kind of demonized thing to fear and all this other stuff, that it honestly renders the discussion moot. And when you do that, it's a default failure state, which is exactly what I was kind of rallying against before. When you do that, when you put that kind of stop in place, it's borderline hate speech because you don't allow the discussion to continue, and that's oppressive. So
about what they're trying to do to society, to humanity, it makes perfect sense that the elite would use Bruce Jenner as a ritual for the masses here. To me,
and now this individual just, that's too much, you know? Like, no one is a ritual sacrifice here. I mean, if you want to think about self-harm or harm in general as being some form of natural or ritual sacrifice, you know, pain for gains kind of a thing, you know, beauty is pain, strength is the ability to overcome, whatever, some kind of hardship, some kind of bloodshed, etc., okay, then yes, there's some kind of ritual that takes place. If you want to think about it like some kind of blood ritual, sure. A surgical operation is a blood ritual. Okay, sure. Let's concede to that because apparently we have to pretend that we're in the 1400s for this subject matter to intermingle the way this person wants it to. Like,
it's quite obvious, and you don't even need to really study a whole lot to really see this, right? Now, in another...
There's nothing to study. You haven't cited anything to study. You know, I love it when these individuals profess this kind of stuff. There are many commentary channels that I have come across my surfing on the internet, and I gotta say, this individual is the most just... Everything coming out of the mouth is golden and must be accepted. And it's like, how can you not see this happening? And it's like, the penguins slide down the slope on their belly, and they do that because they want to be closer to Satan. Like, and Satan is on the ground or something. Like, what? What are you talking about? It's got nothing to do with the topic. But yeah, apparently the Illuminati or the elite or whatever you want to call them ritually sacrificed someone in this instance. So figure that one out, because this individual doesn't explain, just bulldozes and train wrecks right over it.
Other post, actually, I made it 4 days before the one I just read from, another Trials of Transhumanism, Androgyny and the Antichrist. I talked about the notion of androgyny as the source for a lot of these occult thinkers who believe that humanity was created androgynous, male-female together.
Okay, I don't know who the occult people this individual is talking about. I don't know what that's about. And you know what? I don't think anyone does, and I don't think if I were to ask around, anyone would be able to help me. You know, like if I said, what is this individual talking about? I'm almost certain that every other person is going to say, I have no idea. And the reason I said every other person is because the people in between them probably just laugh at me or have absolutely no idea what the hell I was talking about, because, face it, this is some pretty... I used to call this kind of subject matter inward, partially because the individual has kind of like fell into their own stuff, and they're kind of like stuck in it. And it's like this video is an inward thing, as in this person feels strongly about it and has put themselves into it so deeply that it's just like that's all they see. This is their life now, and it encompasses everything. And so they're like in this pit of misery that they've created for themselves, and they look up and they go, oh, the Illuminati, why have they put me here? And I don't know, whatever.
And if you think about that, there's again this notion or this tie-in with what we're seeing with Caitlyn Jenner. Now, did
he just treat himself like he's a source? I made this post a little while ago, and that's talking about this. And if you think that all that stuff is correct, then you also think this is correct. And it's just, that's not okay.
The book called The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall.
I gotta say though, this is it's a fucking miraculous cover. I can't not say that. It's a beautiful image. I know what all this is. This guy wants to talk about occultism and stuff. Just talk about fucking cultural significance and history here. Like, obviously, this is some kind of take on Yggdrasil, the fucking tree of life here, and we have the duality of good and bad, or fire and water, whatever. And we got life up top, and we got a serpent and worms, and whatever else. And yet somehow the kingdom or the light at the top of the hill has put archways to the bottom. I don't know what that's symbolic of. I mean, I don't think this is, the work of the Illuminati. Obviously, this Manly P. Hall person had an illustrator draw this up, but who knows? Who knows? They could have been an occultist, and they could have been working with the Illuminati. They could have put that archway in hell to show that perhaps this individual, having been enlightened by their occult workings and the Illuminati, has found that there's actually a bridge between heaven and hell, and that technically they're both two realms that exist perpetually and simultaneously, and lost souls, travelers, and the dead can go between them when they want. What if that's what this thing is about? Why doesn't he talk about that? Oh yeah, that's right. We're supposed to be talking about Bruce Jenner or something.
Who's considered one of the greatest occult authors of the 20th century. The word androgynous,
according to who?
or androgyny, comes up 21 times. Okay.
And so what if it does? Look at the imagery in Italy. Look at the imagery in Rome. Look at the imagery on cathedrals across the world of small animal human hybrid things with their genitals out, or even just naked women and naked men figures arm in arm together. Sometimes both. Sometimes you'll find men with breasts and women with penises. Can you define which is either, unless you speak to the painting, the individual pictured in the image? No, you cannot assert those things. Oh my goodness. Is it going to harm you, the fact that you can't know those images? Blame the Illuminati for it.
And every single time it's talking about some occult philosophy that suggests androgyny being something to do with our initial state of humanity, with godhood, or our ascended selves. And
okay, that makes sense, because when you step away from binaries and you begin to have a view of something which is an all-encompassing view, and you can see things for what they are, which for me and what I have seen, and now, oh my goodness, I'm putting in my own ideologies here, I'm putting myself on a pedestal. I can get attacked now. Oh no, it's so vulnerable on the internet with ideas. Oh no. Is that, yes, if you observe sexuality long enough, you will see that it is only binaries, and that those binaries simply break down into stimuli and stimuli sources, or individuals and individual fetishisms. It's that simple. It doesn't need to be boy-boy. It doesn't need to be girl-girl. It doesn't need to be boy-girl. It doesn't need to be this, that, or the other thing. It's anything with anything. Okay? It's anything with anything. If you derive stimuli from something in a sexual manner, then that can be considered fetishism. And that is not necessarily a sexual binary. So, if you transcend the idea of binary sexuality, you will see that sexuality is an encompassing, universal thing that is essentially encompassing all stimuli that delivers or is derived sexually, or pleasurably, or even not. Some people derive sexual pleasure from stepping on rusty nails. It doesn't matter. That's not sexual binaries. It's fetishisms, and that's where the transcendence comes in. I've never read this book, but I'm almost certain that there'd be a hint of that somewhere in it.
They skew it with biblical teaching. Now, the Bible clearly states that God created male and female. He separated them.
And why is that relevant?
Yes, the female was created from the rib of the man, but, they were meant to be separate. Now, according to Manly P. Hall, a lot of the mystery schools were...
Mystery schools. Okay, so I don't... maybe I didn't... I don't... Maybe I just don't want to assert it. I'm just hoping, I guess is what it is. I'm just hoping that the person who does this channel and makes these videos honestly doesn't believe in the creation stories as a fact. I mean, there is something to be said about the wonder of creation and how things have come to be. And I think that there's a greater appreciation thinking that those things, just the beings and organisms around us, at all times have had eons, an eon being approximately 2,500 years. So multiple eons, hundreds of thousands of strange eons, to be where they are. You know, if you're outside and you see a bird or an ant or a centipede or whatever, bugs, birds, mammals, farts, it doesn't matter. Think about the eons that it has taken for that to happen. And that's why life is beautiful. And that's why you don't need to believe that everything is good or bad or biblical. That is why life is divine. I mean, Sri Aurobindo wrote a book called Life is Divine. Rest in peace, Sri Aurobindo, about the life divine, saying that every experience is a divine experience because that experiential knowledge is a universal affirmation. It's an all-encompassing thing. The moment that you have is immediately gone, perpetually, and that is what is beautiful, and that is what is the song of life and the universe, and etc. It doesn't hark upon Adam and Eve or commentaries about other things like that, which are completely not to do with transhumanism or transhumanist identities or anything like that. Those are simply biblically rounded conversations that have to be spoken of either in a biblical context, under the umbrella of everything is fact, or under the umbrella that everything is up for consideration or personal response here.
Example, Kabbalah believe that the androgynous state is actually the godhood state.
I'm sorry you had to hear that. That probably has nothing to do with Kabbalah.
Okay? For example, on page 402, it says that the Kabbalists declare that the world intelligences and hierarchies were established according to the vision of Ezekiel. And, of course, they use Ezekiel and they symbolize the world by...
Okay. I can't verify any of this information. I'm not about to. I have read the Torah and the Zohar, and I am not going to get into Kabbalah conversations, and I do not believe this person is informed enough to do that. So I am just simply skimming over this material. You can pause it and read it if you want to. I can't give any heed to it because we're not talking about that book. We're talking about Bruce Jenner sacrificing his soul because of the Illuminati, blah 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 blah. That's supposed to be the topic.
Regains sexual equilibrium. Now think about what Manly P. Hall just said here. This is what...
Yes, the quintessence of the man-woman is the man-woman quintessence. That is the equilibrium. Congratulations. You have ascended. Are you still pretending to be a prick? I hope this person is pretending. I hope.
The occult believe that the man-woman figure, the androgynous state, is actually a godlike state. And so what...
Sure, whatever.
Public, it's the externalization of the occult hierarchy. They're telling the world, hey, it's okay to be man or woman.
And it is. Get on with it.
It's against our natural inclinations, our internal moral compass. And again, this is not a bash on people that struggle. There's generationally some elves. Keep are out there. God bless.
Anyway, yeah. So, the video is still up as far as I know. It's probably going to remain up because who am I? What does it matter what I have to say? The internet is just one giant soapbox for everyone to share their delusions with each other. I unfortunately feel as though it was my responsibility to not only share but expound this information, which both kind of trivializes my own existence and kind of affirms theirs. So I think I've lost here. I think I'm at a loss. But we all learned something today, haven't we? The internet is just a giant shit show if that's what you want it to be. And anyone can have an audience, which is probably why I should continue making these videos. Okay, bye.